If you're a real Warriors fan living in the US, this video is for you. From coast to coast, America is buzzing after last night's game. Steph Curry just reminded the whole country why he runs the West. Stephen Curry's first reaction to Kevin Durant joining the Golden State Warriors scared the OKC Thunder star. This wasn't just another summer headline in the NBA. This was the move that shocked the basketball world, divided fans across the league, and forever changed the balance of power in the NBA. And the story of how it unfolded, the reaction of the players, and the ripple effect it left behind still feels like one of the most dramatic chapters in modern basketball history. Picture this. The year is 2016. The Golden State Warriors have just completed a regular season that will be remembered forever, a record-breaking 73-9 run. They had Stephen Curry at the peak of his powers, fresh off a unanimous MVP season, the first in NBA history. His shooting defied logic. His ball handling broke defenders' ankles. He was revolutionizing the game before our very eyes. Klay Thompson was his perfect running mate, the other splash brother, capable of catching fire in a single quarter and burying teams in threes before they could even call a timeout. Draymond Green was the emotional leader, the versatile defender, and the glue of the entire operation. The Warriors were already great, but when they fell in the finals to LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers in 7 games, after leading the series 3-1, something shifted. That loss hurt the Warriors to their core. It wasn't supposed to happen. Curry looked devastated. Draymond admitted later that he cried in the parking lot, pulling out his phone and making a call that would alter the NBA forever. On the other side of the league, in Oklahoma City, Kevin Durant was also wrestling with his own heartbreak. He and Russell Westbrook had pushed Golden State to the edge in the Western Conference Finals, holding a 3-1 series lead before it slipped away in crushing fashion. That collapse haunted him. Durant was already one of the most gifted scorers the league had ever seen, but he began to question whether staying in OKC would ever give him the championship he desperately craved. And that's when the unthinkable began to take shape. Durant became the most coveted free agent of the summer, and Golden State, of all teams, decided to chase him. To outsiders, it seemed almost unfair. The best regular season team in history, already stacked with all-stars, was about to pitch their case to one of the greatest players alive. What could they possibly say to convince him? What would Durant's arrival mean for the league? And more importantly, what would Stephen Curry, the face of the Warriors, think about another superstar walking into his territory? When Durant made his shocking announcement on July 4, 2016, the NBA world exploded. Kevin Durant was leaving the Oklahoma City Thunder to join the very team that had just broken his heart in the playoffs. The backlash was immediate. Fans burned his jerseys in Oklahoma. Social media called him a traitor, a snake, a player running away from the challenge. Analysts debated for days whether this was the weakest move a superstar had ever made, or simply the smartest. And then all eyes turned to Stephen Curry. How would he react? This was his team, his dynasty in the making. Would he feel threatened? Would his ego clash with Durant's? Would Curry try to keep the spotlight on himself, or would he embrace this union of superstars? The truth is, Curry's first reaction was so calm, so confident, and so team-oriented that it rattled not just the Thunder, but much of the league. Curry reportedly told Durant that he didn't care about being the face of the team or about who got the credit. What he wanted was simple: to win championships, to build a legacy together, and to change the game in ways no one thought possible. Durant, who was worried about fitting in and possibly stepping on Curry's toes, was stunned. The reigning 2-time MVP, the most popular player in the league, was ready to sacrifice shots, numbers, and even some of his shine for the sake of winning. That reaction was what scared Durant, because it showed him something he hadn't seen before. Here was a superstar who didn't operate on ego, who wasn't obsessed with being the alpha at all costs, and who wasn't threatened by another great player entering his orbit. It was liberating for Durant, but at the same time, it made him uneasy. He had been used to battling for dominance with Russell Westbrook in OKC, constantly navigating who got the ball in crunch time, who controlled the offense, who was truly the leader. With Curry, it wasn't a battle. It was an open door. Curry later explained in interviews that he never felt Durant's arrival was about replacing him. Instead, he believed it was about multiplying their strengths. And in those early meetings, he made sure Durant knew it. He told him that the Warriors didn't need him to be anyone else, just himself. They had the culture, the system, and the brotherhood. Durant simply needed to bring his talent and buy into the unselfish style they had built. This attitude, this humility, was what shook Durant the most. Because if Curry, the reigning MVP, was willing to step aside and share the spotlight, there would be no excuses. The pressure was now fully on Durant. He could no longer hide behind the narrative that he didn't have enough help or that his teammates weren't on his level. Now, he was walking into a situation where the environment was perfect. If he failed, the blame would be squarely on him. The Thunder, meanwhile, were blindsided. Russell Westbrook felt betrayed. The OKC fanbase felt abandoned. They had watched Durant grow from a young star into a league MVP in their city, and suddenly, he was gone to the very team they despised. And hearing about Curry's immediate acceptance, about how the Warriors' locker room had no ego issues and welcomed Durant with open arms, was salt in the wound. It underscored the fact that OKC could never give Durant what Golden State could. When Durant finally suited up for the Warriors that fall, the entire NBA tuned in. People booed him on the road, called him names, and tried to dismiss his rings before he even won them. But Curry never flinched. He adjusted his game, took fewer shots, and leaned even more into his gravity, the way defenders had to swarm him from half court. This opened up the floor for Durant in ways he had never experienced before. Suddenly, the game looked easy. The Warriors' offense became unstoppable, a nightmare for every opponent. And the NBA quickly realized that Curry's reaction, his selflessness, was the foundation of what would become a dynasty. Durant later admitted in interviews that Curry's acceptance and the Warriors' culture had both comforted and challenged him. It forced him to rethink his identity as a player and a teammate. But it also scared him, because he realized how high the expectations were. Anything less than a championship would be seen as a failure. And deep down, he knew the world would never fully give him credit, because Curry had already built the Warriors into legends before he arrived. The first season together ended with exactly what many had predicted: domination. The Warriors went 16-1 in the playoffs, the best postseason record in NBA history, and captured the 2017 NBA championship. Durant was named Finals MVP, but it was Curry's leadership, his willingness to let Durant shine, that made the machine work so seamlessly. And yet, that shadow always lingered. Curry's initial reaction to Durant's arrival had scared him because it was so unselfish, so opposite of what Durant had experienced elsewhere, that it raised the stakes in a way he hadn't anticipated. It was no longer about chasing a title. It was about living up to a culture of winning without ego, and that's not easy for anyone, even one of the greatest scorers ever. The partnership lasted 3 seasons, bringing 2 championships and creating one of